Right.
Did you send the comprehension?
Yeah, I have Ali.
Okay, thank you.
I have copy for you. So, will you please open your books for social studies, page 122? So, in today's lesson, we'll speak about the climate and also the ecosystem, and how that each where in our planet or each place on our planet is different regarding to the climate, the temperature, and also the animals and the people living in that place. Each creature in a specific person in a specific place on our planet has a very specific features that is totally different from any other person on the planet. Like the people, for example, who are living in Africa, they can endure much heat than other people living in Europe, for example.
Biomes and ecosystems. The plants and animals of each climate region form interdependent communities. The community of plants and animals that live in a particular environment is known as a biome. The kinds of plants and animals that live in a biome depend on the following factors: temperature, soil, and the amount of light and water. Within each biome, there are many ecosystems. An ecosystem is a system of living and non-living things in a particular environment. There can be many different ecosystems within a biome. Classifying biomes. In this lesson, we will look at 4 main biomes: desert, tundra, forests, and grasslands. However, within each of these classifications, there are many more precise biomes. Look at the key to the map on pages 120 and 121. Each of the 12 climate zones is a particular biome, and some scientists can further divide them into even more.
So, simply to speak about the biomes and the ecosystem, we need to know that the planets and the animals of each climate region form interdependent communities, meaning that the animals living in case A, for example, are not the same living in Cairo, they are not the same living in Al Khobar, they are not the same living in any other place on the planet. So, some animals have specific features that distinguish and different them from other animals. And also, to speak about people, we will have that also people have specific features in each biome. So, what is the biome? A biome means the community of plants and animals that live in a particular environment. That is known as a biome. So, the community of plants and animals living in a particular environment is known as a biome. Important. The community of plants and animals living in a particular environment is known as a biome. Regarding classifying the biomes, we will look at 4 main biomes: desert, tundra, forests, and also grasslands. Speak about in this topic. The first type of biomes we have are the desert. For example, these are some dunes in Rab al Khali Desert. And Rab al Khali Desert, they are here in KSA, for example. So, what can you infer from this photo? What can you understand from looking at this photo? Tell me about the animals that may live in that place, for example. Grade 8, can you hear me?
Yes, teacher.
So what about animals that may live in this place?
Snakes,
Snakes, nice.
lizards,
Leather, yes.
camels.
Camels, great. What about plants?
What?
The plants,
I don't know much. Cactus.
the cactus, bravo. So simply because this place has a very severe features that made it very, very hard for any animal to live or any even plant to grow. Consequently, the animals and plants in this place require very specific features to be able to deal in that place. For example, the scorpions and the snakes. They can live in this place, but they will never go out in the sun. They will wait until the sun goes down, and then they will go at night in order to just hunt and try to find some food. Also, you have camels because camels can live for approximately 30 days without even drinking water. You have some plants like cacti because also it can live for a very, very long time without even drinking so much. So, desert is
Some sheep these places. There is some sheep on these places
yeah,
live
some
there, but
and
not a lot.
yeah, they move from one place to another regarding for water and also for the food. From one oasis in the desert to another oasis. Do you know oasis?
Yes, it's like a place who is a source of water. Like they will,
Yes, great Muhammad, very good. So an oasis is a place inside the desert that have access to well of water, and this water or a lake of water will enable life to be uh, in that place. So people will start to grow some plants, they will start to settle down, and they will start even to grow their own civilization. So in the desert,
Desert. Earlier, you learnt about deserts as landforms. However, desert is also a type of biome. Deserts have extreme temperatures, very hot or very cold, and almost no water. True deserts receive less than 25 centimeters of precipitation each year. The soil is very sandy or rocky and of a poor quality for plants to grow. As a result, plant life is sparse in the desert. Some desert plants, such as cacti, store water in their roots or leaves. Others have seeds that remain dormant for a long time to survive from one rainfall to another. Not many animals can survive desert conditions. Desert animals are usually nocturnal, active at night. To avoid activity during the daytime heat, they may hide in the shade or burrow underground. Small. They don't get enough food and water to reach larger sizes. Smaller animals can also hide and find shade more easily. Able to survive without drinking. They can get water from their food. Examples of desert animals include spiders, scorpions, snakes, crows, and vultures. Polar regions.
so once again, the desert is considered to be one of the most severe biomes on Earth because simply the circumstances and the feature of its temperature makes it very, very hard for any animal or even any plant to live there. Yet, most of the animals in that biome in the desert, they have some features that can enable them from living in that place. Like number one, nocturnals, meaning that they are active during the night, not during the day. They are small and they are able to survive without drinking for very long periods.
Polar regions are an icy type of desert. They have heavy snowfall and big stretches of ice, also called ice deserts. Almost no plants can grow here. Some animals, such as polar bears and penguins, are adapted to living in this environment.
On the other hand of the desert, we have the polar regions. The polar regions, they are also deserts, but on the other hand, instead of being covered with sand, they are covered with ice. And also because of the severe temperature, the very hard circumstances of this place, it makes it very, very hard for people, animals, or even plants to live and grow there. But another thing or another way, some animals they have adapted to these severe circumstances, like the polar bear, for example, and the penguins. So polar regions are very icy types of desert. They have heavy rainfall and big stretches of ice, also called ice desert. There is almost no plants because the land itself is frozen, so you cannot grow any plant in that place. Some animals, such as the polar bear and also penguins, are adapted to living in this environment. Arctic Circle is a popular region of the polar regions. The third type, of course, is the tundra. Any questions so far?
No, teacher.
Okay. So third type is the tundra. What is the meaning of tundra?
Teacher, do I read?
Yes.
Okay. The tundra is mostly situated in high latitudes of the northern hemisphere, just below the Arctic Circle. Because of its latitude, the region has long, cold winters and short, cool summers. It's so cold that there is a permanent layer of frozen soil just underground, known as a permafrost.
So
Uh,
some tundra, they are in the northern hemisphere, most of them, of course, and they are beneath the polar regions, and consequently, they will have the very long, cold winters and the short, cool summers. And the best place to speak about this is in um, Europe. The tundra in East Siberia, that's in Russia, of course. The temperature ranges from minus 40 degrees till 18 degrees. Yet it stays below zero for 6 or 10 months a year. In the summer, some of the ice melts to form marshlands. The uh, permafrost melts at the surface. Some small plants, such as mosses, sages, and also leeches, can grow here. Some small animals, birds, and insects also appear during the summer months. and this would be the only time that they will appear in so that they can feed on the plants. So once again,
Tundra. The tundra is mostly situated in the high latitudes of the northern hemisphere, just below the Arctic Circle. Because of its latitude, this region has long, cold winters and short, cool summers. It is so cold that there is permanently a layer of frozen soil just under the ground, known as permafrost. The temperature ranges from minus 40 degrees Celsius to 18 degrees Celsius, but it stays below 0 degrees Celsius for 6 to 10 months of the year. In summer, some of the ice melts to form marshland. The permafrost melts at the surface, so some small plants, such as mosses, sedges, and lichens, can grow here. Some small animals, birds, and insects also appear during the summer months when they can feed on the plants.
any question once again about the tundra? The last type of the palms, or the last type of the places where we can study today about the different places is the Tega region, is also known as the Koreala Forest. This is the strip of coniferous trees that extends across the northern of America, the most of Europe, and also Asia. It's also found just south of the Tundra region, and mostly also we have in Africa, like this, and in India, you will find a lot in India also. This biome has also very long winters and short summers. The most common plants found in the Tega region are the conifers such as spruces, firs, and also pine trees, which are evergreens, and larches, which are deciduous.
Tega. The Tega region is also known as boreal forest. This is a strip of coniferous trees that extends across North America, Europe, and Asia. It is found just south of the tundra region. This biome also has long winters and short summers. The most common plants found in the Tega region are conifers, such as spruces, firs, and pine trees, which are evergreens, and larches, which are deciduous. Conifers are adapted to the cold conditions. The pyramid shape allows the snow to slide off the tree and prevents loss of branches. The needle-shaped leaves have low surface area so that they don't lose a lot of water. The needles also have a waxy coating, which protects the leaf from drying out in cold winds. The evergreen trees produce and store food as soon as there is enough sunlight. The dark green color of the leaves helps the trees to absorb as much heat as possible from the little sunlight available.
Of course, the animals that live in the Tega region include lynxes and various kinds of wassels, wolverines, fishers, ermines, and also sable. These predators feed on small herbivores such as hares, lemmings, and also voles. The seed-eating birds, also such as finches and sparrows, can survive year-round in the taiga. Insect-eating birds tend to migrate to the region during the warmer season. So, simply, what we need to know about all of these different biomes is that although that we have many places with very, very distinctive and different climate features, yet each animal and planet that's living in that place has become very adapted to living in these places. Speak about yourself, Muhammad, please. So once again, grade 8, the most important point about the biomes is that each animal living in this place has become very adapted to the circumstances of the place it's living in. Weather, climate, temperature, lack of water, okay, coldness, predators in its place. So all of them became very, very adapted.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire, mixed temperate forest,
These, of course, are some sort of the biomes on the planet. That's one sort of the desert, the rocky one, the polar region, the tundra beneath the polar region.
when you look at pictures of Earth from space, what's the first thing that you see? A blue marble, as some have described it. A water world, where oceans and swirls of white cloud dominate. But most of us will then have our attention drawn to the shapes imprinted on its surface, the continents. And they come in many colours. The white of Antarctica, the beige of the Sahara, the light green of grasslands, and the darker shades of our planet's forests in their many forms. So many of these colours that give the world its look are the result of trillions of individual plants growing upon the surface. Which plants grow where is determined by many factors, with climate being the most dominant. Desert and scrubland, savanna, prairie and steppe, tundra and taiga, woodland and rainforest. They are at the base of almost every food chain of every animal, the habitats that sustain all of the life forms and ourselves. Collectively, they are known as the biomes, the living landscapes of Earth. Landscapes have been an inspiration to us for centuries, the subject of countless painters, writers, photographers, and movie directors. The natural vistas of our home countries and foreign lands, perhaps more than anything else, determine that area's character. And whilst these landscapes are shaped underneath by topography, the presence of coastlines, hills, and mountains, their surfaces are defined by the degree of plant life growing upon them. Earth's vegetation is almost infinite in terms of the variety of species that grow upon it. As plants are wholly dependent upon liquid water, what type of species grow where is determined primarily by annual patterns of temperature and rainfall in that area, the local climate. An abundance of heat and water produces the greatest growth potential, such as in the tropical rainforests, while lower temperatures or rainfall reduce such growth and shape the plant life in various ways so that it can survive drought and frost. The main groupings of plant varieties in this regard can be thought of in the following way. Trees, from the coniferous evergreens of the boreal forests to mixed temperate woodlands and the evergreen broadleaf forests of the tropical regions. Shrubs, occurring in almost every climate zone, either as a junior partner in forests or dominant as they are in semi-arid areas such as the Mediterranean. Grasses, again, occurring in almost all areas, but known especially in their singular biomes of the tropical savanna and the temperate prairie and steppe. Desert adaptations, with cacti being the most well-known. Very cold adaptations, such as found in tundra. These adaptations span the basic classes of plants in terms of evolutionary heritage. For instance, the class of flowering plants known as angiosperms are found in every category as just described. The term biome is often confused with the concept of a climate zone, but these are different in nature. A climate zone is defined simply by the patterns of temperature and rainfall, and these are
So each place on the planet has its own climate zone and its own feature. Yet, depending on these features, the biome starts to exist. So first we have the temperature, okay? Whether it's normal temperature, it's a very high temperature, that's beneath zero, whatever temperature the place has. And according to this temperature this place has, then we will have the pipe.
discussed in detail in my secrets of
Okay. Any question?
World Climate series, which you can find linked top right. Biomes are the adaptations of plants principally influenced by climate zones, but by other factors also. Perhaps the most interesting of these is the different ways in which plants evolve in the same climate types, but isolated on different continents. For instance, eucalyptus forest dominates the eastern seaboard of Australia, which has the same humid subtropical climate to that of the southeastern United States and of southern China. And yet we do not find eucalyptus in those other continents, but instead oaks or bamboo. In the opposite way, many species have adapted to live in multiple climate zones. For instance, the pine tree family can be found from the subarctic to the tropics. Another influence is the type of soil that might be present in a region, from sand through to silt and clay. As the soil affects drainage of water away from roots, this affects what species will be present within the same climate zone, since plants have different sensitivities in this regard. So climate zones and biomes should never be thought of as synonymous. In fact, the subject of biomes is significantly more complex because of life's way of evolving along different paths, through random mutations when presented with the same external conditions. This complexity is evidenced by the many different attempts to classify geographical distribution of biomes over the last century and a half, with varying degrees of consensus. By comparison, climate classification has been dominated by a single figure in all this time, Vladimir Koppen. On that subject of climate, let's return to that and focus on how and why exactly differing patterns of precipitation and temperature can so markedly affect the type of vegetation covering an area. In the 1940s, Leslie Holdridge developed this graph showing how a combination of temperature and rainfall could produce the different biome types observed across the planet in what he called life zones. At first, this looks like a beast of complexity, but if we break it down, it will make sense. From top to bottom, we have increasing temperature, either from the poles to the equator or the tops of mountains to the sea.
So regarding to this graph in front of you, you will have from the top here, you will have the temperature in the polar regions. And by going down and down and down, you will start to increase the temperature. And because of the increase in that temperature, you will find some more features that are to be added to the place. Consequently, some animals will try to adapt to living in that place, constructing the biomes we are speaking about.
On the right
right side of the triangle, we have annual precipitation, from dry in the center to wet on the right. The combination of temperature and rainfall yield a factor called the Aridity Index. It is actually the ratio of potential evapotranspiration to total rainfall. Evapotranspiration is the combined effect of direct evaporation of water from the soil, plus the outward transpiration of water from plants through the gas exchange cells in their bodies. Potential evapotranspiration is the maximum possible amount of water lost in this way, assuming that there would be a limitless amount of water available. The highest temperatures combined with the lowest rainfall produce the highest aridity index, and this is where we find deserts capable of supporting little, if any, plant growth. Both cooler temperatures with weaker sun and consequent low evapotranspiration, or a wetter climate alike, allow for plants and soil to retain more moisture and thereby increasing plant growth. And so at the opposite end, we find rainforests, either of the tropical or temperate variety. This concept is key in understanding how regions with differing rainfall and temperatures lead to different types of vegetation. It's not simply about which areas have more or less rain. Take, for example, the boreal forests, which have a similar total annual rainfall to the semi-arid Sahel just below the Sahara Desert. Totally different biomes despite the similar rainfall totals. But because the boreal forests are much cooler, they can retain more moisture, leading to extensive biomass, whereas plants and soil in the hot Sahel lose much more moisture in comparison, leading to stunted shrub-like vegetation and plenty of bare earth. In this series, we're going to use the recent class.
So actually all of us are dead right now. So any question regarding the biomes, guys? For those who are not dead, of course. I know that social can sometimes become very dull, but what can we do? So, once again, according to the temperature in the place, the rainfall, and the type of the soil, biomes starts to come, having specific features for each one. Any question regarding the quiz?
How many questions are going to come in spelling and vocab?
One or two, perhaps.
From each one, 2 or 1?
Yeah, just one or two. All you can, Muhammad. Bye.
Goodbye, teacher.
Goodbye, guys. If you don't have any question and you need to leave, there is no problem.
Teacher, I didn't find the comprehension, the photo.
Where exactly did you look, Muhammad? Ali?
In the library.
Okay. If you went here to the library,
Yes.
you will find out that
Where do I go? Photos, videos, where?
before.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This is for today's, and that's for the last reading comprehension, 379 and 386.
See you later, teacher.
See you later, Khalid. Bye.
Goodbye, teacher.
Goodbye, Hussein.